Sir Alex Ferguson's 2 words that couldn't save Manchester United from another defeat. Welcome back to United Daily Updates, your most trusted source for all things Manchester United. If you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel where we bring you the latest news, match analysis, and insider information about our beloved club. We are your go-to community for honest and reliable United content. The moment that broke every United fan's heart. Picture this. It's Sunday at Old Trafford. The atmosphere should be electric. Instead, there's a heavy feeling in the air. Denis Law, one of our greatest legends, has just passed away. The club is paying tribute. Sir Alex Ferguson, the man who made us the kings of English football, is walking on the pitch laying a wreath. Then comes a moment that should have been inspiring. Ferguson approaches Ruben Amorim, our current manager who's fighting for his life to turn things around. What does the greatest manager in our history say? Just 2 simple words: stay positive. But here's the heartbreaking part. Those 2 words, coming from the man who won us 13 Premier League titles, couldn't prevent what happened next. Brighton, yes Brighton, absolutely destroyed us 3-1 at our own home. Our 10th Premier League defeat of the season. We're sitting 13th in the table. This is Manchester United we're talking about. What really happened that day? Let me paint you the full picture of what went down at Old Trafford. This wasn't just any ordinary match day. The club was mourning the loss of Denis Law, a true United legend who had passed away at 84. The pre-match ceremony was emotional. Ferguson was there with other club legends, paying their respects to a man who helped build our legacy. The sight of Ferguson laying that wreath on the Old Trafford turf was powerful. Here was the manager who defined modern Manchester United, showing respect to one of the players who came before him. It should have been a moment that inspired the current team to honor that legacy with their performance. But football doesn't care about emotions or perfect setups. Brighton came to Old Trafford with a plan, and they executed it perfectly. Yankuba Minteh got them started with the opening goal. Our boys managed to fight back through Bruno Fernandes from the penalty spot, and for a moment, you could feel hope creeping back into Old Trafford. Then reality hit us like a truck. Kaoru Mitoma scored to put Brighton back in front. Jorginho Rutter added the third to complete our misery. The players looked defeated. The fans were frustrated. And Ruben Amorim? He looked like a man watching his dreams crumble in real time. Why did Ferguson choose those 2 words? When you think about it, stay positive might seem like simple advice. But coming from Sir Alex Ferguson, these words carry incredible weight. This is a man who faced his own difficult moments at United. Remember, there was a time when some fans wanted Ferguson out. There were matches where nothing seemed to go right. There were seasons that felt lost. But Ferguson understood something that many people forget. Football management, especially at a club like Manchester United, is as much about mental strength as it is about tactics and player quality. When everything around you is falling apart, when the media is calling for your head, when the fans are losing faith, staying positive becomes the hardest thing to do. Yet it's often the most important. Ferguson knew that Amorim was facing the kind of pressure that can break managers. The Portuguese coach had arrived with high hopes, but the results weren't coming. Every match felt like a must-win, and every defeat felt like another nail in the coffin. In that moment before the Brighton match, what Amorim needed wasn't tactical advice or team selection tips. He needed to remember that this storm would eventually pass. Think about Ferguson's own journey. He didn't win the league in his first few seasons. There were calls for him to be sacked. The famous banner 3 years of excuses and it's still crap. Tara Fergie tells you everything about how some fans felt back then. But he stayed positive, kept believing in his methods, and eventually built the greatest dynasty in English football history. The brutal reality check after the match. But Ferguson's words of encouragement couldn't change what happened on the pitch. The match was painful to watch for any United fan. Brighton didn't just beat us, they outplayed us in every department. They were sharper, more organized, and frankly looked like they wanted it more. After the final whistle, Amorim's post-match interview shocked everyone. This wasn't the usual diplomatic manager speak we're used to hearing. Instead, Amorim delivered some of the most brutal honesty we've heard from a United manager in years. "We are the worst team maybe in the history of Manchester United," he said. Can you imagine hearing those words as a United fan? This is the club that gave us the Busby Babes, the class of '92, the treble winners, and Ferguson's incredible teams. To hear our current manager say we might be the worst team in our history is devastating. But here's the thing about Amorim's comments. He wasn't saying this to hurt the fans or to make headlines. He was saying it because sometimes you need to face the brutal truth before you can start fixing things. I am saying that because we have to acknowledge that and to change it, he explained. What does this mean for United's future? The numbers don't lie. and they make for uncomfortable reading. 2 wins in 10 Premier League games. Sitting 13th in the table. This is genuinely the worst start to a Premier League season in our club's history. For a club that expects to compete for titles, these statistics are simply unacceptable. Amorim knows this better than anyone. It's unacceptable to lose so many games. For any Premier League club, so imagine Manchester United, he said. The man understands the weight of managing this club. He knows that United fans don't just want to avoid relegation. They want to see their team competing with the best. The pressure on Amorim is immense. He's in the unfortunate position where he's actually performing worse than the manager he replaced. We are getting a new coach who is losing more than the last coach. I have full knowledge of that, he admitted. That takes guts to say, but it also shows he's not hiding from the reality of the situation. The January transfer window becomes crucial. With results like these, the January transfer window suddenly becomes much more important than anyone expected. The INEOS-led sporting board is reportedly ready to fast-track new signings to help Amorim out of this mess. But here's the question every United fan is asking. Can new players really fix what's wrong with this team? Looking at the Brighton defeat, the problems weren't just about individual quality. Yes, there were defensive errors. Yes, the midfield looked disconnected. But there were also issues with attitude, work rate, and basic football intelligence. These aren't things that new signings automatically fix. The challenge for the board is identifying what kind of players Amorim actually needs. Do we need more creativity in midfield? Better defensive organization? More pace in attack? Or do we need players with stronger mentality who can handle the pressure of playing for Manchester United? What would Ferguson do in this situation? Perhaps most importantly, Ferguson was given time. The board backed him even when results weren't immediately forthcoming. In today's football world, managers rarely get that luxury. But maybe that's exactly what Amorim needs right now. Ferguson also understood that football is about more than just the 11 players on the pitch. It's about the entire club pulling in the same direction. From the boardroom to the training ground to the fans in the stands, everyone needs to believe in the same vision. The fan perspective. How are we supposed to feel? As United fans, how are we supposed to process all of this? On one hand, we have our greatest ever manager telling our current manager to stay positive. On the other hand, we're watching our team put in performances that would embarrass any Premier League club, let alone Manchester United. The frustration is real and it's justified. We've watched Liverpool and Manchester City dominate English football while we've struggled to even qualify for the Champions League consistently. We've seen our local rivals succeed while we've gone through manager after manager without finding a solution. But maybe Ferguson's message isn't just for Amorim. Maybe it's for all of us. Maybe stay positive is what we as fans need to hear right now. Not because everything is fine, but because giving up hope doesn't help anyone. The truth is, clubs go through difficult periods. Even the greatest clubs in the world face challenges that seem impossible to overcome. Real Madrid had their struggles in the early 2000s. Barcelona went years without winning the Champions League. Bayern Munich had periods where they weren't dominating German football. What separates the truly great clubs from the rest is how they respond to these challenges. Do they panic and make reactive decisions? Or do they stay true to their principles and work systematically to rebuild? The bigger picture. What's really wrong at United? The Brighton defeat is just one match, but it represents a bigger problem at Manchester United. This isn't just about Amorim or even about the current squad. There are structural issues that have been building for years. Since Ferguson retired in 2013, we've tried different approaches with different managers. We've spent enormous amounts of money on transfers. We've changed the coaching staff multiple times. Yet the problems persist. This suggests that the issues go deeper than just the people on the pitch. The club's recruitment strategy has been questionable for years. We've signed big names without having a clear plan for how they fit into the team. We've paid massive wages for players who haven't delivered consistent performances. We've changed our playing style so often that players struggle to adapt. There's also been a lack of continuity in the club's vision. Each new manager has wanted to implement their own system, often requiring different types of players. This constant changing of direction has left us with a squad that doesn't really fit any particular style of play. What can we learn from Brighton's success? It's painful to admit, but Brighton's victory over United wasn't a fluke. They've now beaten us twice this season, and both times they looked like the better organized team. So what can we learn from their approach? Brighton have been consistent with their philosophy. They identify talented players who fit their system, they develop them properly, and they sell them for profit when bigger clubs come calling. Then they reinvest that money wisely and continue the cycle. Their coaching is clearly excellent. Players seem to improve when they join Brighton. They have a clear style of play that all their players understand. When they make substitutions, the new players slot in seamlessly because everyone knows their role. Most importantly, Brighton have realistic expectations. They're not trying to win the Premier League tomorrow. They're building something sustainable that will keep them competitive in the long term. Maybe United could learn from this patient approach. The role of leadership in crisis. Ferguson's brief interaction with Amorim highlights something crucial about leadership during difficult times. The greatest leaders don't always have complex solutions or detailed tactical advice. Sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do is offer simple support and encouragement. Stay positive might seem basic, but it addresses the mental side of football that often gets overlooked. When you're losing matches and facing criticism from all sides, it's easy to lose confidence in your abilities. Self-doubt creeps in. You start second-guessing every decision. Ferguson understood that Amorim needed to hear that someone believed in him. Someone who had faced similar challenges and overcome them was telling him to keep going. That psychological support can be more valuable than any tactical advice. But leadership isn't just about staying positive when things are going well. True leadership is about maintaining that positivity and determination when everything seems to be falling apart. That's what Ferguson did throughout his career, and it's what Amorim needs to do now. Where do we go from here? So where does this leave Manchester United? The January transfer window is open, and there's clearly a need for new players. But signings alone won't solve the deeper issues at the club. Amorim deserves time to implement his vision, but he also needs to show that he can get better performances from the current squad. The brutal honesty in his post-match comments suggests he understands the scale of the challenge. The board needs to provide clear support while also making smart decisions about which players to sign and which to sell. There's no point buying expensive players if they don't fit the system or if they're not mentally strong enough to handle United's pressure. Most importantly, everyone at the club needs to stay united behind the same vision. From the owners to the players to the fans, everyone needs to be pulling in the same direction. Division and panic will only make things worse. The Ferguson legacy and modern football. Ferguson's presence at Old Trafford for the Dennis Law tribute reminded everyone of what Manchester United can achieve with the right leadership and patience. But it also highlighted how different football is now compared to when Ferguson was building his dynasty. In Ferguson's era, managers were given time to build something special. Clubs had patience with their long-term vision. Players stayed at clubs for their entire careers. The media pressure was intense but not as overwhelming as it is today. Today's football is faster, more reactive, and less patient. Social media means every decision is analyzed immediately. Fans have platforms to express their frustration in real time. The financial pressure to succeed quickly is enormous. But maybe some things haven't changed. Maybe the core principles of building a successful football club remain the same. Get the right people, give them time, support them through difficult moments, and stay committed to your vision. Final thoughts. Hope in dark times. Ferguson's two-word message to Amorim might not have prevented United's defeat to Brighton, but it represents something important. It shows that even in our darkest moments, there are people who believe things can get better. The current situation at United is genuinely concerning. The statistics are awful, the performances have been poor, and the fans are losing patience. But football has a funny way of turning around when you least expect it. Maybe Amorim will find a way to turn things around. Maybe the January signings will make the difference. Maybe the players will finally start performing to their potential. Or maybe we need to accept that this is going to be a longer rebuild than anyone hoped. Either way, Ferguson's advice remains relevant. Stay positive. Not because everything is fine, but because giving up hope doesn't help anyone. United has faced difficult periods before and come back stronger. There's no reason why this time should be different. As United fans, we've seen the highest highs and now we're experiencing some pretty low lows. But that's what supporting a football club is about. Through good times and bad times, we stay loyal. We keep believing. And we never stop hoping that better days are ahead. The road back to the top might be longer than we hoped, but Manchester United will find a way. Ferguson's legacy reminds us what's possible when you combine talent, determination, and unwavering belief. Those qualities still exist at our club. We just need to rediscover them. Until then, we keep supporting, we keep believing, and yes, we stay positive. Because that's what Manchester United fans do. That's all for today's blog post here at United Daily Updates. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more in-depth analysis and the latest United news. Share your thoughts in the comments below about Ferguson's advice and where you think the club goes from here. We're all in this journey together as United fans, and your voice matters in our community. Keep the faith, and we'll see you in the next update.